Joining me is Steve Hamilton, Assistant Professor of Economics at George Washington University, and Australian. Stephen Hamilton, thank you so much for joining us. What are these extraordinary tariffs going to do, for a start, to Australia?
Yeah, so I think the direct impact on Australia is going to be very small. And that's just because we don't trade that much with the US, right? So the Trump administration has put the lowest tariff on Australia of 10%. We don't have a big, trading relationship. That small amount of damage that will do to us, we'll be able to find other markets for those products. So I really don't worry too much about the direct effect. Much more important for Australia is sort of other impacts, indirect impacts. We're seeing huge tariffs put on our major trading partners, which will obviously affect us dramatically. And also, I think the chance of a US recession has increased dramatically as a result of this. And that could have a flow-on effect to Australia. Now, the one positive for Australia, a bit perversely, is that if these, China, Vietnam, these countries that have been hit with big tariffs end up having a glut of goods that they can't send to the US, they could flood Australia with those goods, which obviously would make, the inflation problem disappear pretty quickly. It could kind of loosen the supply constraints in the Australian economy and maybe lead to the RBA cutting rates more quickly than they otherwise would have.
The thing is, though, I agree with that. The thing is, though, our big trading partners, China, Japan, South Korea, India, they've all been hit much, much harder by Trump than we have, by the tariffs. We sell them actually things that their manufacturers need. This is our vulnerability: gas, coal, iron ore. So if their economies are hit, that's got to be able to hurt us a fair bit, I would have thought.
Oh, no question. I mean, China, they've imposed a 35% tariff, I think, on China, but that comes on top of the other tariffs. It's not instead of, right? So the combined tariffs on China are reaching sort of 60%, right? So we're going to get to a point pretty soon that really any trade between the US and China won't be possible. And obviously, as you said, we send gas, iron ore, coal by the shipload to China, and there's no way around that, right? If those countries need less of our resources, we're going to send them less. We get a big negative hit to our economy, and that could be serious.
I saw this I think is a really troubling thing about what Donald Trump is doing by disrupting things, by hurting allies like this. He's driving countries into the arms of China. And in particular, that photograph a couple of days ago of trade representatives from China, its traditional enemy Japan, and another country that invaded South Korea, these three countries joining together to talk about some sort of mutual trade pact or arrangement. Does Trump know that he's forming and making countries form alliances with a country he considers its chief rival?
Look, I think not that obviously is very bad, but it could cause a recession in the US. It's going to lead to a big reduction in America's long-run growth rate, right? If we put the list of negatives that this policy is going to generate for the US economy, and then not even get to the geostrategic questions, pushing your friends into the arms of your enemy. I mean, you can't imagine that this is a rational decision-making process. No rational decision-making process would ever have led to this outcome. I mean, you're probably the same as me, Andrew. I thought it was a bluff. I thought it was a bargaining chip, a negotiating tactic, something to, force other countries to kind of give America a fair deal. But I think we're realizing now it's not that.
Well, I won't yet give up dwindling hope that it is a bargaining tactic. Trump suggested as much in his statement that you could come back and negotiate, but my faith in that is falling. There's one further thing about this. You mentioned that we could get a glut of product from countries hit by these tariffs going to Australia instead, from Vietnam or whatever, which has got hit by, I think, nearly 50% tariffs. The point is, we actually had the Prime Minister today say our best reaction will be to buy Australian. We make almost nothing of our consumer goods now. Manufacturing makes up about 5% of our GDP now. If that is the reaction, we're going to be making even less. We're going to have our manufacturing under even more pressure.
Yeah, so here's, I think, two things about this, Andrew. One, I think the rest of the world needs to respond to this with more cooperation, more engagement, more trade liberalization, because that is how you need to respond, right? You need to find alternative partners for the things that you produce and that you want to buy. I think that's absolutely what we should do. Secondly, we need to get serious about getting the Australian economy growing again, right? We haven't grown in the last decade hardly at all. We've been in this period of stagnation, and we've had great complacency. This might be a wake-up call to start to think seriously about our growth prospects and the kinds of reforms, tax reform, IR reform, to get our economy more productive and to get our economy going again.
It is absolutely critical that it is that wake-up call, that we have to get stronger. Stephen Hamilton, thank you so much for your terrific insights. I really appreciate that.
Pleasure, mate.